right. Well, thank you all again for being here today. I want to thank all of the advisors who were able to bring your students with you today. I want to thank all of our students who came to see us today. And for everyone who joined us, this has been a great experience. I hope that you all have enjoyed the day, have learned a lot, and are taking away with you the knowledge that leadership, embrace your leadership, right? Make sure that our community, our voices are being heard, that we're being seen, that people are listening to us, right? This world that is today in Kansas, I think we've touched on this in a few sessions, but they're coming for us again is the best way that I know how to say it. Some of us are of an age where it's like, really, again? You want to do this to us again? We didn't let you get away with it the first time, the second time, the third time. We're not going to let you get away with it now. That's just the way I feel about it. And it is our queer community, our LGBTQ plus community, our Two-Spirit community, our community of allies. All of us have to work to make sure that we are all safe, okay? And again, I want to thank all of you for being here. If you have any questions for us after you leave, please let us know. Just reach out from myself or Dr. Bolton, the LGBT Center, the Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs Office, and we will do our best to help out, okay? As part of the conference today, we had the art show. So real quickly, I would like to recognize the individuals that placed in that show. First is Jude Croft. Jude, you here? You want to come up here, please? The Platinum Award. So if you did not get a chance to see the artwork, it was amazing. And you can still, it's still up downstairs. For our Diamond Award, Tori Cruz. Lori, I think it's Tori. Thank you. And for our crystal placing was Adrian Sadal, who was unable to join us this afternoon. But definitely, it has been an eventful day. We had the art show. We had so many amazing speakers. Dr. Gleason, of course, as our keynote. We are extremely thankful for you being here and being able to lead so well in the state of Kansas. I want to introduce you to an amazing, amazing person that I look up to and who has definitely enacted a lot of change here at Kansas State University in their tenure here and in the state of Kansas, Dr. Deborah Bolton.
He does not really look up to me, obviously. Very few people do. You know, I wanted to, when Dr. Haddock asked me to do the kind of closing ceremony, as it were, I knew I would have to go and listen to a lot of really fabulous talks today, and I did. And I'll kind of reiterate some of those. But as I called my grandhuman last night, they are 14 and they are transitioning, and I said, you know, this is what I'm going to do. I wanted to get them here for the conference. They're in 8th grade and going to school in Nixa, Missouri. Not a very open place to grow up by any means. But I said, what do you feel are the challenges facing the LGBT community? And they said, well, closed-mindedness is the biggest one. And I said, yes. And I was remembering I wanted them to become a researcher, so I take them to a national conference that I go to every year. And when they were 7, they presented a poster. So with the students presenting posters, they decided to make a specific category just for this, for them, my grandhuman. So their first poster was sexism in the toy aisle. If you looked at the toy aisle, the blue is all about strength, and the pink is all about, imaginary things like unicorns and motherhood and things like that. And so then the following year, their poster was on why parents should love their children no matter who their children love. And I thought, for someone that age, that's really forward thinking, and I'd like to think that I had something to do with that. But mostly what they wanted me to let people know is there needs to be some open-mindedness, which I think we've been talking about all day. And as I went to the different sessions today, I learned about gendercide, lists as a form of queer medium of connection and physical intimacy, which I just love that concept. Healthcare access, access to mental health care, all of these different things, legislation, barriers, keeping your own narrative. Don't let someone set your narrative for you. Allies, transitioning, biases, and standards set by people meant to exclude. Those so-called standards that were set so long ago. If you look at the history of exclusion, you can go back to the time of Aristotle when he wrote the extreme climate theory. He was saying anyone who lives in extreme climates and usually had darker skin could not manage themselves, needed to be, they were even considered natural slaves, as Linnaeus, the botanist, the Swedish botanist Linnaeus wrote in the 17th century. He wrote about natural slaves picking up from Aristotle. And then if you think of how the church has been involved, I'm a 13th century scholar of a king named Alfonso who was in Spain and was once going to be crowned king of the Holy Roman Empire. He was a pluralist. But the beautiful thing that he, devout Christian, devout to the Virgin Mary, he always believed, though, that Jewish and Muslim people in his court was a very important thing because it was all about knowledge for him. So even in that same time, Pope Innocent III was legislating torture for anyone who didn't believe in Catholicism. He was especially pointed at the Cathari, who were so fundamentalist that they believed that procreation was a sinful act. I don't think he needed to kill them because they were going to fade out eventually since they didn't procreate. But anyway, another story there. And then that was a papal bull that was written. And then think of the papal bull that was written 200 years later after Alfonso to launch Christopher Columbus. At that same time, forgot the name of it, the policy to expel Jewish and Muslim people out of what is now Spain. That same year that we launched Columbus to go take over lands wherever he could, he landed in the Caribbean. He thought he was in India. He was a bad navigator. They needed a geographer on board, but apparently didn't have one. So if you think about all of the things, what first contact did to Native people in what is now the Americas, it ruined our lives. And there was a standard set for us by a very small group of people that said, this is the way you should act. Think of it. If you think of what is now the United States, Spain landed on this continent 40 years before the Plymouth Rock landing. So we were this close to being a Spanish-speaking country. Again, persecuting people for having more than one gender, specifically natives, who did not see a binary necessarily. And I made the point today when I was in the fabulous session with Dr. Tantanetti and Dr. Haddock about how natives really do have this traditional knowledge that in biology, there are not binaries. There are only spectrums. And we live on a spectrum, but someone keeps telling us, you have to live in this binary. You have to do this. This is a standard we're setting for you. So if we are always going to have a standard set for someone that doesn't love us, that doesn't see us for who we are, that wants us to be this standard, that's a tough world to live in. And I see my grandhuman growing up in that world where they don't accept them for who they are. And that's a painful thing to me. And it's become really hard on students to be in a school where their fellow students come with these ideas purely through socialization. Socialization from their parents, socialization that their grandparents had, and on and on and on, to say, this is how we all need to look. I've even had students on this campus tell me, but we're the standard that everybody should fit to. And I said, I'm sorry, but that's your socialization. Just like the concept of race is purely a social construct, so is a binary. That's a social construct that we're not following biology, if you think of biology in the spectrum rather than a binary. So there are all of these things that we learn and we're socialized. So if we end up feeling bad about ourselves, it's because we've been socialized to feel like we're inferior, because we're told over and over that somehow we don't fit a standard. That's very sad. That's a sad world to live in. And while all the brave people here today and the people I work with to, I hate the word normalize, but it seems that's like what we're doing. Quit judging us for who we are and what we believe in, or how we look and how tall we are or not. You know, all of those things that we're judged on just because we have a certain phenotype, we present ourselves in a certain way. So those are things that we continue to have to fight for, just like legislating our bodies. No matter what our body is, we're seeing legislation for them all the time, like refusing, as Dr. Gleason talked about this morning, a refusal to treat trans people, or a refusal to treat people in a different way. I was a director of a community learning center in another life for a community college, and we used to do these days where we would set up clinics for health care. So like pap smears, pregnancy tests, HIV tests, HIV/AIDS testing, all of these things. We actually met women who had come from another country and did not know they had an IUD, because someone decided this person has too many children. I'm just going to slip an IUD in there, you know. And if that person would have had some, just some freedom or some self-efficacy to bring that forth to the medical board, that doctor would have lost the license. So we think like, oh, we're helping. If you think of the number of indigenous women who have been sterilized at the hands of the government, and you think that's not happening anymore, it still is. So in many ways, where we talked about indigenous people today, we talked about the plight, it's kind of like a plight, but all of the struggle that we have in the LGBT community. We continue, and it's through people like all of us here that will make that voice, give us more voice. And I would have to say my call to action is patience. I've been socialized, I'm 65, and all these 65 years, well, I would say maybe 60 years, I was socialized to a binary. But then I started thinking, why? My parents weren't socialized to a binary, my parents both indigenous. You know, this whole idea of many genders and all of the things, and not saying, oh, you're a female, so you have to do the dishes, or you have to skin the buffalo, or whatever. There isn't. There wasn't a binary. People just did their work for their livelihood, and that's the way it is. When we were colonized and told, okay, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's right, that's right. Well, shoot, we were wrong all the time. And here's the thing that I'm really starting to, this whole idea is at Florida that's saying, well, a lot of legislators, we don't want our children indoctrinated. They didn't go to school with me, apparently, because I was indoctrinated constantly in the history books. Well, I was indoctrinated to notice that I was missing out of those history books, and indoctrinated to know that I was somehow wrong. That's the socialization I had in the school that I grew up. And they were called the Montrose Indians, still are. But they're changing right now because the governor, Jared Polis of Colorado, that's where I'm from, has instituted, if the schools don't change, they get a $25,000 fine for not changing their mascots. That's brave. He got a lot of flack for it, but isn't that a cool thing? Will we ever see that in Kansas? Maybe not this year. So I would just say finally again, patience. Patience with yourself and a little patience with your allies. I may make a mistake on gender or pronouns, but be patient with me, and there might be other allies like me. We're trying really hard, and we need your help to make sure that we're using language that isn't taking us out of that heteronormative, so-called normative language. We need to see and be comfortable with lots of different language around LGBT rights and rights of any people who are have historically excluded identities. So I stand between you and getting to go home. I won't do that anymore. Do you have anything else to say? Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. Come on, it's your turn. Thank you.
Now I am the one that stands between you and getting to go home. But as an ally, I want to take a moment and give you all some space for those of you who might want to share a word of your experience today. So I'm just going to stay silent for a moment, and just one word. If there's something that you want to share, what you're feeling, please feel free to do so. I'll give you some space to do that.
I'm feeling inspired.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'm feeling pride.
Thank you.
Affirmed.
Thank you.
Enlightened.
Empowered.
Thank you. In the back.
Validated. Hopeful. Yeah.
Informed.
Thank you.
Invigorated.
Thank you. Yes.
Confident. Connected.
Accepted.
Accepted. Thank you.
Humbled.
Thank you. Yeah.
Feeling joyfully weepy over all of these words.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Grateful. Strong. Seen.
I'll just give us just a little bit more time. There is no set time to this. I just want to give you plenty of space. So let me give you just a few more moments if anyone has anything else they'd like to share. Okay, thank you. So Kansas is a big state. I am the only paid employee of GLSEN. Kansas. However, that's one more paid employee than we had a year ago, and hopefully it's at least one fewer paid employees than we might have a year from now. That incremental change is important, and sometimes it seems like it takes forever. I'm honored to be here to be able to help break the silence with all of you, so thank you for that invitation. We rely heavily on volunteers and coalition building. LEGO is one of GLSEN's biggest national sponsors. You might have seen the LEGO set. Everyone is awesome at our table. And so coalition building sometimes is like taking a large box of Legos, throwing them all over the floor in a room, and then trying to build a tower to the ceiling. It seems like a bit of a daunting task, but you know it's all going to connect eventually. It just takes some patience, some time, and some grace. So with days like today, where we get to come together and talk and learn from each other and come out with some of the words that you shared in terms of the feeling accepted and feeling empowered and feeling heard and seen, that's where it all starts. Oh, there goes my phone. So middle school and high school students here in the room, we're here to help you with your GSAs. So find a trusted adult that can find us on Facebook, because I understand that the younger generation doesn't hang out on Facebook much, which is probably not a horrible thing. But find us and reach out to us and let us connect with your schools, with you individually, with your family and other trusted adults, and we'd love to help work with you in your schools. For the college students in the room and instructors, teachers, and such, we rely on you as volunteers. And so we encourage you to do just that. Give back to an organization, an affirming organization in your community. So 2 V's together equals 1 V. So volunteer, vote at every single opportunity. Do not miss opportunities to vote at every level, and that will lead to victory. It's very important that we vote at every level, even if it seems like one voice doesn't matter. It does. That incremental change is important. So the bottom line of GLSEN's Day of Silence, it's really just to show you that silence is a choice. It's your choice, not someone else's choice. So, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people out there every day that try to silence folks. It seems like they do it for a living. I don't know how they have that much time, but we see it every day. But they won't win. We won't let them. We won't be silenced. Together, we will win. So what I'd like for you to do now, if you're comfortable, is to close your eyes or relax your gaze up here, somewhere in the room, not on me. And I want to share with you a quote from a poet and author, Bell Hooks, who we lost this last December. Power. Sometimes people try to destroy you precisely because they recognize your power, not because they don't see it, but because they see it and they don't want it to exist. I'll read that one more time. Power. Sometimes people try to destroy you precisely because they recognize your power, not because they don't see it, but because they see it and they don't want it to exist. They know you've got the power to choose when you want to be silent and to choose not to be silenced. So together is better, and together we will win and will not be silenced. History has shown that again and again. It's on our side. No future struggle is too much to negate the progress to date. So with that, I'm gonna wake up. All right. So with that, let's go forward together in power and break the silence.
I need to see your, I need to
Thank
see
you,
your
everybody.
hands up. I need to see your, I need to see you get
Dance the house down, Sickle.
I need to see your,
All right.
I need to see your hands up.
So I need to thank all of you. I need to thank Commerce Bank, Phillips 66 for financially assisting us in being able to put on this conference for us today. Kansas State University Athletics, Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs, College of Engineering, College of Business, multiple individuals that came together for our steering committee. We definitely appreciate everything that everyone has done for us today and all of our volunteers. Thank you.